Hello, this is Allison Hunt, and this is the Old Slocum House Theater Company's documentary, Part 7. This is my mom's section, Connie Merrill, Connie Dickhouse. Unfortunately, I came down to be with my mom, and 2 weeks later, she got a diagnosis for having stage 4, and we lost her 2 weeks later. I didn't get to interview her about her experiences. I'm really bummed about that because she did so much theater and I wanted her to talk about each and every show, the jokes they played, the actors that she worked with. She worked with a lot of actors repeatedly. My mom was just a really funny, outgoing person. There's just nobody like her. So I'm gonna try to do her section for her. I can't give you the feedback she could. I didn't know where her Slocum House photo album was until after she passed. It took me a while to find it. So I'm gonna do this for her, and I hope you're still interested in learning more about the Slocum House because it was such a amazing thing to be a part of, and there were so many amazing people involved. So my mom got involved into Slocum House through her friend Sharon Rollins, who was already doing shows there. The very first show my mom was in was called Two Roses, and Sharon was assistant directing this show, and my mom didn't really audition for it. She just read a piece of the script, not in an audition style, but I think she read it for Sharon or the director, and they said, okay, you got it. So suddenly got this part in Two Roses, and that was her very first debut in acting. I would like to read the names of each actor that was involved in each play. I'm trying to find a lot of them, and I'm not having much luck because I really want to hear their stories about Slocum House. The actors in Two Roses are Robert Scoville, Thelma Scoville, Connie R. Merrill, Erica Nelson, Patrick Nutt, Robert E. Blond, Ron Carmona, Wes Taylor, Sharon Rollins, and Leanne Robertson. I have some really pretty pictures of Two Roses. The second show my mom was in was called The Love Chase, and she auditioned for it and wrote, I got it, on the audition flyer, which was nice. The actors in Love Chase are Ken Champagne, Gaithel Ferguson, Ron Carmona, Dale Poff, Sharon Rollins, Connie R. Merrill, Noelle Evans, Deborah Barnett, Cynthia M. Dominic, and Carolyn L. Carmona. My mom hooked up with Ron Carmona when I was young, and he moved in with us and for a while and did theater with us, and he gave me some nice pictures of Love Chase that I'd never seen before of my mom. They're beautiful, and hopefully Ron will let me interview him along with Deborah Barnett, who I've been talking to. There's a picture of Ron and my mom backstage, and my brother is in the mirror. We were pretty young, that's for sure. Then my mom did The Man from Toronto. I believe that Sharon directed this. Connie Merrill, who plays Ruth Wimbush, has been in 2 other shows. She played the lead in last year's Victorian Festival show, Love Chase, as the spirited Constance. She also played in Slocum House's 1986 production of Two Roses as Ida. Connie does a great job and admits she has been severely bitten by the acting bug. The actors in Man from Toronto are Ken Geiger, Mary Geiger, Judy Sanchez, Connie R. Hill, Toby Dillinger, Ken Champagne, Gaithel Ferguson, Connie Renee Merrill, and Lisa Cote. Then she did The Son-in-Law of Empoyer. The actors are Mike Haywood, Robert Monroe, Jeremy Peck, Bob Madsen, Connie R. Merrill, Gaithel Ferguson, Richard Altenbach, Steve Hansen, F. Dale Poff, and Aura Roline. So my mom had a picture that I remember since forever, and she put it in a round little frame, and that was in our living room for my entire growing up, and I found it way later, and I was excited. I'm like, oh yeah. So I took it out and I scanned it, and it's a scene from where I think a guy's proposing to her and Mike Haywood standing behind her. So I was really excited when that showed up. Then she had her first assistant directing debut with Mrs. Warren's Profession. and that was directed by Mike Haywood. And the last thing I just found was a beautiful picture of my mom and Mike that was scrambled in her stuff. I just found it, and I'm like, awesome. Sharon won Best Actress for Mrs. Warren's Profession. The actors are Sharon Casey Rollins, Stephanie Parker, Richard Altenbach, F. Dale Poff, Bob Madsen, and Robert Scoville. Her next show was Her Step-Husband. The actors are Steve Hansen, Anton Agar, Mike Haywood, Ken Geiger, Cindy Grigori, Connie Merrill, Sharon Casey Rollins, Carmel Baird, and Judy Sanchez. And for the 1988 Victorian Festival, my mom had her first directing debut as she directed Cast. Some of the actors in Cast are Richard Wolfe, George D. Alroy, Ken Fox, Deborah Barnett, Gaethel Ferguson, Richard Altenbach, and Tim Baker, which is my brother Tim. I think that was his first show. I just remember a specific part in this play where Deborah Barnett's character, she cooked this ham and she's trying to talk to this guy, and he's like completely ignores whatever she said to him, right? So she goes and shoves the ham up in her face, and she's like, ham. Then she did Esther Short, which was directed and written by Hermine Decker. This was Hermine's third performance of Esther Short, and this was the last performance of Esther Short. Judy Sloan plays Esther Short. Mike Haywood played Amos. J. Dick Ron Carmona. My mom played Weetoma, Yellow Rose, a Native American lady. And that's the best part. So she decides she wants to throw a knife in the air and catch it by the handle in the performance. So she's at home, and she practiced and practiced and practiced with this big ass knife, and she would throw it way up in the air. She got really good at it, and she'd catch it by the handle, right? And the Slocum house had a really short ceiling, so she really couldn't throw it very high for the performance, and it was kind of dangerous, but it had wonderful stage effect. I can't believe Hermine let her do it, because Hermine was Hermine. So I'm really surprised that Hermine goes, yeah, sure, throw the knife, right? I'm sure my mom had to show her several times that she could do it without getting hurt before Hermine would let her do that. But it was wonderful stage effect anyway. This was my first play at Slocum House. I just played one of the kids. I didn't have any lines. And during this time, my mom met Jay, and her and Ron ended up splitting up, and her and Jay actually got together. I think Esther Short was in 1989. A play worth seeing. Don't miss the current Old Slocum House stage play, Esther Short, or A Heroic Pioneer Mother, by Hermine Duthie. In keeping with the Washington State Centennial Celebration, this play will carry you back to pioneer days at Fort Vancouver and make you feel as if you were there in the virgin forest that once lined this side of the Columbia River. A group of us from Vancouver Parks and Recreations Department's senior tap dancing class attended the matinee performance on Saturday, and we were all very impressed with the exciting story, the beautiful scenery, and the superb local acting. As a citizen of Vancouver, I feel that this excellent play adds to our understanding of pioneer life and trials in this area and brings our famous Esther Short to life. Anyone who doesn't get to see it will be missing a valuable event in the celebration of our centennial. Then she directed The Wife Who Was Kidnapped. The actors are Mike Haywood, Sharon Casey Rollins, Deborah Barnett, Greg Titsworth, Gwendolyn Sayers, Judy Sanchez, Jay Dickhouse, and I played the daughter. I don't have the flyer, so I don't remember the name. And I can't remember who played the other boy. That was my brother. But there's a really sweet picture of Jay shaking me and the boy's hand. I thought that was a really sweet picture. In November of 1990, she directed Dinner for Two, which was also called Service for Two because there was kind of a discrepancy about the script or any changes made to the script. So it went by Dinner for Two, but it was also called Service for Two. Actors are Gwen Welch, Barbara Larry, Bill Sismar, because I don't have the program for this show, so I'm sorry if you were in it, and I don't know what your name is. Julie Madsen was in it, and Art Green was in there. Other than that, I don't know your names. I apologize. I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to drink, but I enjoyed the cast parties. And there's this hilarious picture of Bill. And I don't know who this lady's name is, but this is classic. My mom and Jay married at the Slocum house on the stage. Then they had a remodel of Slocum house. And I can't find the article right now, so I'm just going to wait and read that later. Then she did a show called The Passerby. And I have absolutely no memory of this show. And I have no idea what it was about. I don't have any pictures for it, but the actors in Passerby were Mike Haywood, Connie R. Dickhouse, Bethany Blosser, Bill Winkleman, Bob Madsen, Ora Roline, and Mary Coughlin. The next show she did was For All the Saints, and this one had beautiful costumes that were donated that came from the lady who wrote the play. She sent my mom the original costumes, and they were beautiful and colorful, and I don't have any pictures of that show at all. I asked Bill, and he said he doesn't. Sharon doesn't have any pictures of the show. They were so colorful and just gorgeous. The lady really liked the play. She came and saw it and wrote my mom a letter telling her thank you for it and how proud and happy she was about it. Then the next one that she did was Arsenic and Old Lace, which was one of the best shows that my mom ever directed. It sold out. It was hilarious. They had a extremely great crew. We had Julie Madsen, Sharon Rollins, Kobe Sutherland, Michael St. James, Julie Madsen, D.W. Andrew, David Gray, and George Kostick. D.W. Andrew was nominated for his role as Teddy, and he didn't win it. And that is a really big bummer because I thought he was the best part of the show, but they had a really great cast. This was a fantastic, fantastic show. One of the best. And she got a letter from the board of directors at Slocum House. Dear Connie and members of the cast of Arsenic and Old Lace, the board members of the Old Slocum House Theater extend to you a very sincere thank you for the time and enthusiasm you have put into this production. I attended the play and enjoyed every minute, as did all the others in the full house. Congratulations. Thank you, Ruby Lloyd. So that was pretty special. I think Arsenic got nominated for 4 awards, but they didn't win any, which is a shame. But back then, Slocum House hardly ever won anything. We'd get nominated for things, but it always kind of leaned more Blue Parrot Theater. Tend to win most of the awards, and it kind of stayed that way for the majority of my mom's time there. Then my mom did a show at Blue Parrot. This is a Slocum House documentary, but I'm going to read it because my mom just passed, and Greg Perot left, Kurt Aristad, center, and Michael St. James exchange views in early one evening at the Rainbow Bar and Grill from the Blue Parrot Theater Company. Rainbow Bar opens tonight. Camus. Another comedy hits the stage as Blue Parrot Theater opens a 3-weekend run of Bruce Graham's Early One Evening at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. Rainbow joins The Foreigner at Clark College and The Merry Wives of Windsor at Washington State School for the Blind as comedies on Clark County stages. In Rainbow, Leslie Warner directs a cast that includes Kurt Aristad as Shep, a bartender, Liz Wesby as Virginia, a physical education teacher, Michael St. James as Bullard, an aluminum siding salesman, Greg Perot as Roy, a mechanic, Connie Dickhouse as Shirley, a waitress, Barbara Campbell as Willie, a part-time Sunday school teacher, and D. Michael Haywood as Joe, a mysterious stranger. Haywood returns to theater after an 8-month hiatus. The story takes place early one evening at the Rainbow, a small bar and grill in a backwater town. Something strange has happened, and it looks like it may be the end of the world. As bar patrons exchange on the events of the day, a mysterious but good-humored stranger appears and makes an unusual offer to Shep and Virginia. Stop by at the Rainbow for lots of laughs. Laughs flow like tap beer at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. Bruce Graham has written a funny script, and the Blue Parrot Theater Company kept an opening night audience howling in its production of Early One Evening at the Rainbow Bar and Grill. There's a lot to explain, but let's try to be brief. Shep is the bartender at the Rainbow, a small bar in a backwater town. He's finally been successful in getting his novel published, but just as an $8,700 advance check arrives from the publishing company, something goes wrong. Nobody is sure exactly what happened. Is it Russians, Chinese, Arabs? But it appears to be the end of the world. Most people desert, but Shep decides to stay and keep the bar open. A string of characters enter, including town mechanic Roy, rifle-toting Willie, aluminum salesman Bullard, waitress Shirley, health and physical education teacher Virginia, and a stranger Joe who appears to be God. Everyone except Joe is a little crazy as they face the possibility of death. The play is an ensemble work, and director Leslie Warner gets a strong performance from her cast of Kurt Aristad, Liz Wesby, D. Michael Haywood, Greg Perot, Barbara Campbell, and Michael St. James, and Connie Dickhouse. The set, complete with electric Budweiser, Bud Light, and Michelob signs, provide the bar atmosphere. There is a 4-stool bar, complete with bowls of snacks and a TV on the counter. Behind the bar, under a stuffed moose head with a huge rack, is a beat-up refrigerator. There's a stuffed squirrel on one side of the wall and a dartboard where Shep throws darts at his advance check on another wall. And there's another jukebox with a variety of music, including polka, Ben Crosby's White Christmas, and Nat King Cole's Pretend. The next one she did was Crooked Money, directed by Art Green, who's a very good friend of ours. The players are Mike Haywood, Don Weed, Flint Kravitz, Greg Perot, Steve Swenson, Art Green, Sharon Rollins, Connie Dickhouse, and Laura Castle. The Old Slocum House Theater Company offers a mix of comedy and drama in its stage production of Crooked Money. The play, directed by Art Green, opens Thursday at Slocum House and continues Thursday, Friday, and Saturday through November 20th. Crooked Money is a story of generosity, eventual reparation, and the desire on the part of the characters to make good for long sufferings and poverty brought about earlier in the story. Set in a small American town in the 1920s, the 3-act production stars Flint Kravitz as Clyde Billings Jr. and Laura Castle as Betty. The play also features Don Weed as Ulysses, D. Michael Haywood as Bubbles, Craig Perot as Wallace, Connie Dickhouse as Elizabeth, Steve Swenson as Warren, and Art Green as Clyde Billings Sr. Sharon Rollins is double cast as Sarah and Mary. So in this play, there is money hidden in the walls of the house, and Sharon played twins. She played a good twin and an evil twin, and she just loved it. This is the first time that Laura Castle is introduced, and Laura Castle was my mom's favorite actors to have in her shows. Same as Mike and Sharon and stuff and Art. Art Green is no longer with us, but I wanted to read this. Connie, I want to thank you for being my assistant director for this show, and also the great job you did with the role of Elizabeth. You have a lot of talent, plus you are a fine actress. It has been a long haul, but I think the show came off pretty well for being my first time, and you helped make it all possible. It has been my pleasure to have you in this cast. I hope we can do another show in the future. Once again, my sincere thanks. Art Green. The next play my mom did was Harvey, which was also one of her very best shows that she did. I don't have the program for this show. Mike Haywood, Laura Castle, Tony Coughlin, Angie Brown, and then that's me, Allison. I look really angry. I was a moody teenager, so the guy behind me, no reason why I look mad. That's Don Weed, the sweetest guy. He was a really good artist, and I think that he was also a clown. Don't know if he was a professor, but he was a really smart man, so I'm not mad because of him. He's just a big sweetheart. We got Pat Rohrbach in front, and Kurt Aristad and Art Green. Harvey won Best Comedy that year, so yay! I don't know if Kurt Aristad won for it, but he was probably nominated. I've had a hard time getting a hold of him. Then my mom did a show called The Father. We got Don Weed, Gareth Davis, Art Green, Connie Dickhouse, Sharon Casey Rollins, Gareth Davis, Marie Carrillo. That's all I can see from this picture. This one, I guess my mom was like the evil wife. Okay, so she only had 2 roles where she was evil. This was one of them, and then she did Miss Chevrolet in Ideal Husband. Then she did Captain Applejack. The cast is David Gwynn, Don Freeman, Linda Doyle, Don Weed, Laura Castle, Angie Brown, Art Green, Mike Haywood, Tony Coughlin, Troy Olson, and Jay Dickhouse. This is something about a guy has this dream about being a pirate and stuff. I don't really remember it well. Hopefully Laura will tell us some more information about it. But there's this picture, just the one that Laura sent me, and I go, I don't know what Mike's character is doing in this scene, but he looks like he's doing a dance or a shuffle. And then I go, oh, he's got a gun pointed at him. Well, you better dance. And he's got this shuffle and this look on his face. Mike Haywood was the most animated, hilarious guy you've ever met. He was so fun to work with. My mom worked with him so many times, and I got to work with him a few times. Hilarious person. Take a fantastic journey with Captain Applejack. Comedy and fantasy come to the stage in the Old Slocum House Theater Company's production of Captain Applejack. The play is set in the winter of 1920 in the library of Palperin, Cornwall. House owned by Ambrosia Applejohn, who has reached middle age and feels that time has passed him by. He decides to sell his home and travel the world looking for adventures. When he falls asleep in his chair, he dreams of the notorious Captain Applejack, and his life is changed forever. Connie R. Dickhouse directs a cast that includes Don Weed as Ambrosia Applejohn, David Gwynn as Lush, Don Freeman as Poppy Fair, Linda Doyle is Agatha Whitcomb, Laura Castle is Anna Velasca, and Angie Brown is Miss Pingard. Others in the cast are Art Green as Horace Pingard, D. Michael Haywood is Ivan Berlowski, Tony Coughlin is Bill Dennett, Troy Olson as Johnny Jason, and Jay Dickhouse as one of the crew. The next one she directed was Come Back Little Sheba, which starred Sharon Casey Rollins and Mike Haywood. Also, Laura Castle, Sean Cates, Tony Coughlin, Linda Doyle, David Gwynn, Shannon Kelly, Jeff Hayes, Art Green, Roger A. Callis, and Greg Perot. This was a story about a recovering alcoholic, and there was one scene in this show where he relapses and he starts getting violent, and I'm telling you, it was the waterworks. It was amazing, and Sharon is such an intense actor, and having her and Mike do a very emotional, dramatic scene was a total tear-jerker. I'm going to read you an article that I didn't have before. 2 Troops Ready plays. Slocum House opens Comeback Little Sheba tonight. Dream Chasers Theater and the Old Slocum House Theater Company will open plays in the next week. The Old Slocum House Theater Company opens the drama Comeback Little Sheba tonight. Dream Chasers presents Other People's Money in a dinner theater format beginning Thursday. Oh, it's not a review. Okay, so we got Left, Lola, Sharon Casey, Admires the Milkman, David Quinn, and Comeback Little Sheba. And this is my ticket. It was a ticket I had that when I went and saw it. It was a wonderful show. I don't think it got nominated for being a show, but Sharon was nominated as Best Actress and won. So it was like, yay, Slocum House. Sharon was amazing in that one. The next one we have is 1,000 Clowns. Clowning around at the Old Slocum House. No, 1,000 Clowns is not about a circus. In fact, Herb Gardner's play even has a serious side to it, said Connie R. Dickhouse, the show's director. It's comedy with a message, she said. The show centers on Murray, a writer for a children's television show who quits his job so he can spend time roaming the streets of New York City and do things he's always wanted to do, such as standing on Park Avenue in the early hours and shouting, "All right, all you rich people, everybody out in the street for volleyball." The problem is, Murray's been left to care for his 12-year-old nephew, Nick, and social services don't find Murray's lifestyle appropriate. They threaten to take Nick away if Murray doesn't find a job. So Murray has to come to terms with how to live his life in order to keep his nephew. The play stars Steve Legate of Portland as Murray, Brendan Wright from Sandy, Oregon, Vancouver's Cheryl Spear as Sandra, a social service worker who finds herself romantically involved with Murray. The play is a cult favorite after its 1961 debut, with audiences making return trips to the theater to watch it again and again. It's pretty quirky, Dickhouse explained, and a little racy for the early 1960s. By racy, Dickhouse is referring to a scene where Sandra wakes up in Murray's apartment the morning after their first date. 1,000 Clowns is the 9th production Dickhouse has directed for Old Slocum House. So on a side note, I was going to Vancouver School of Arts and Academics when my mom was doing 1,000 Clowns. And it was really awesome because she just pretty much came in there and was like, hey, I'm doing a show down at Slocum House, and I would like to see if one of your choirs. Now, the art school goes from 6th grade to 12th grade. So she was like, I'm working on a show, and I have a song that needs to be played. It's called the Chipper Monkey song. I don't remember how it goes. She goes, can I get one of your choirs to maybe learn this song and we can record them singing it and then I'll play it at the play. And bam, they sure did, and it was done. That was kind of cool. The next play she did was Ideal Husband, where she played Mrs. Chevalier. I forgot to mention way back that Julie Madsen won Best Director for Her Step-Husband. And I always get Her Step-Husband and The Ideal Husband mixed up, so I thought it was this show, and I was wrong. So she did win for that, which is a Slocum House rarity. Oh, so the dress. So my mom had a really unique dress. I'll just say it was unique. Later on, when I started doing this documentary, I went online and I found this beautiful website, which I will refer to you later to look at so I found a picture way after my mom stopped doing theater. Found this picture of this woman wearing the same dress years later. And I'm like, hey, my mom wore that same dress. And I posted it, and Tony Bump says, oh, yeah. He says that was made for Dracula. That dress was made for Dracula in 1981. And also, there's a brown dress my mom wore in Man from Toronto. And Tony's like, man, that dress got around. We used that dress in Portland. We used it. That dress has been worn so many times. And one of the coolest things about Slocum House, honestly, is that they had a collection of the most beautiful costumes and the most oldest dresses. When Slocum House discontinued to be a theater because the rent increase was too much and they were remodeling the park and changed it, it was way busier later. Luckily, guess what Slocum House did with their costumes? The best thing they could have possibly done with it. They gave everything to the Vancouver School of Arts and Academics for all of those kids from 6 to 12 to use, because they were always going to be doing shows. And I just about cry a tear about that, because it went exactly where it should be in theater. They went where they were the most needed and appreciated. And then the next one my mom did was Bus Stop, which was an old Marilyn Monroe movie. I still haven't seen the movie. Players are Allison Hunt, Sharon Casey Rollins, Art Green, Laura Castle, Mike Haywood, Steve Schmidt, Todd Andes, and Mike McDaniel. I'll tell you what, Mike McDaniel in rehearsals came fully in costume. Mike McDaniel we had a fantastic cast. Mike McDaniel was absolutely amazing. And he had this supporting actor part. And he was laid back, subtle character that just was the heart of our show. Everybody else was amazing too. And every night, me and Sharon, we'd open the show, and there was a little bitty hole in the curtain the size of like a thumbtack. And every night we'd creep, and the wood's old and it creaks, right? And warp. We'd look through the curtain hole and we'd be like, is it full? How many people are here? You know, is it a bunch of blue hairs? What's a blue hair? Is it elderly people? Because the matinees, we'd have a lot of elderly people. And I'm like, yeah, it's packed. Because we were both on stage for curtain. Every night we'd look at each other and we'd bend our heads and we'd do-si-do. So we'd do-si-do around this way, and then we'd switch arms and do-si-do. That's how we opened. The crowd never saw it. That's how we opened the show. So we had wonderful Art Green and Steve Schmidt. Sharon Rollins was amazing. Laura Castle was amazing. Todd Andes was fantastic. I didn't know Todd Andes very well. Tony Bump had worked with him before, but this was the first I ever seen him. He was a gas to work with. We had such a nice set, which was a compliment, but we had some serious chemistry. It was just so much fun, and to us, it seemed like the play went by really, really fast. We got nominated for several awards, and I think we won them all. We couldn't believe it. We had such chemistry. It was amazing. I think we all just had so much fun that it made the show a million times better than if you went to see a show. We were having the greatest time, and so we were all glowing. Okay, at the 12th Annual Clark County Theater Art Awards on June 20th, 1998, Michael Haywood wins Best Supporting Actor as Dr. Lyman. Sharon Rollins wins Best Supporting Actress as Grace. Laura Castle wins as Best Leading Actress in a Comedy. Todd Andes wins Best Leading Actor in a Comedy. And Best Comedy goes to Bus Stop. And we had a nomination for set design that we didn't win, but we were pretty much crying. It almost makes me want to cry now, because once in a lifetime. Thanks to the cast and everybody involved, we had so much fun. And so did everybody that came to see it, thank goodness. And I have to read this because I didn't have that article before. Baby, the Rainmaker must fall again. The Old Slocum House Theater will complete the N. Richard Nash trifecta next week when it opens its version of The Rainmaker, the third such local presentation of the show during the past 6 months. Sylvia's Class Act Dinner Theater in Portland performed the play for several months in 1998, closing in November. Wow, could you imagine doing a show for several months? That would be so cool. Clark College recreated the musical version of the story, 110 in the Shade, in late February and early March, Now it's Vancouver Community Theatre Troupe's turn to try Nash's romantic comedy about a drought-stricken family that has its world turned upside down when a stranger arrives promising rain. As a plain girl named Lizzie develops her relationship with the town's most eligible bachelor, Sheriff File, she also finds herself reluctantly drawn to the stranger, Starbuck. Lizzie at first calls Starbuck a fake and threatens to turn him into authorities. But as she gets to know the man, she finds herself falling in love. During their courtship, Starbuck tells her to think big. While Lizzie confesses only to have dreams of simple little things, Starbuck tells her she is pretty and predicts someone will notice that someday. As the relationship builds, he fulfills his own prophecy. Yet the law soon comes for Starbuck, and Lizzie has to decide whether to protect her new lover or turn him in. Yet again, we have the great Todd Andes. Sadly, he passed away and he's no longer with us, but it was really good to know him in the short time that I got to know him, and my mom loved him very dearly. Also in the cast, Jeff Hayes, Mike Haywood, Laura Castle, Art Green, Steve Schmidt, Leah Doss, and the last, almost second to last play that my mom did was Divorce Me, Darling. Misadventures in Marriage. From left, Peggy Gleason, Bill Spencer, Mike Gallagher, Laura Dudley, and Jessica Clare star in the comedy Divorce Me, Darling. I do believe that Art Green directed this. A Lawyer in Love deals with a roving hubby in Slocum House comedy Divorce Me, Darling. With experience as an actor, stagehand, and director in 26 theatrical productions, 26, my favorite number, theatrical productions, 26. You go, Art. Art Green has a pretty good sense for what Clark County audiences want to see on stage. For a show to be successful here, it has to be one of three things, Green said. A good comedy, a good mystery, or a good musical. What up, Tony Bump? In directing his third show, Art Green selected a comedy to wrap up the 1998 season for the Old Slocum House Theatre Company. Vancouver audiences don't go for something too heavy, Green said. And his choice of the two-act play written by Alex Gottlieb is anything but weighty. The plot centers on Amelia Conway, a successful San Francisco divorce lawyer. Conway has been married for 15 years to devoted and thoughtful construction engineer Jonathan Bentley. Or so she thought. Never forgetting a birthday or anniversary and constantly giving gifts and flowers helped Bentley create the illusion of wedded bliss, and Conway never considered her marriage might be endangered. Oversexed blonde secretary asked Conway to represent her in a marriage annulment so that she can marry her married boss. The philandering husband's secret is out. With a script full of laughs to keep the dialogue light and breezy, Conway must choose between sending her husband packing or trying to salvage the marriage. The cast is led by Laura Dudley as Amelia, portraying her husband as Steve Schmidt, while the ditzy secretary, Tina, is played by Peggy Gleason. Other cast members include Connie Dickhouse, Bill Spencer, Jessica Clare, and Mike Gallagher. This show has a lot of lines, but even during the serious parts, it doesn't drag, Green said. Then there was one more I found, so I had to ask Tony Coughlin about this. So they came out, it was called The Three Rings of Death, and it was supposed to be a murder mystery, and it was supposed to be interactive with the audience, so the audience would actually be able to ask the characters questions to try to figure out who was the murderer. So they could actually ask the players different questions, which was really interesting. I never knew anything about this, but my mom was involved in it. And they were supposed to do this for the Legion that was across the street from Slocum House. And then there was a ballot where people would write down who they think it was. So I thought that was really interesting. I didn't even hear nothing about that. So I did want to mention that my mom did remarry a third time, and she moved to the desert, and she just kind of got used to a quiet life, and she had opportunities to do theater down there, and she just decided she did a lot at Slocum House, and that was kind of her grand finale. So thank you for listening to this. I'm just trying to fill a spot in Vancouver's history about the Slocum House and the old Slocum House Theater, and give you some insight about my mom's involvement. And I'm really sorry I just missed being able to interview her. But thank you for listening to all of this. I really appreciate it. I wanted to say I'm going to love her forever and miss her, and she's going to leave a hole in a lot of people's hearts. But I hope that this will help to share my love for her and to show our friends and family and even strangers a huge piece of her life. And she even got an award for her outstanding service in community theater. I can't find the picture, and that picture and another picture kind of got stuck together, and I don't know where she did get something as a farewell. And there's just never been anyone like her, and I thank her for what she did for community theater. My plan is I'm going to gather these documents and I'm going to put them together and print them out in color. I'm going to bring a set to the Vancouver Historical Society. I will probably bring one to Slocum House, whoever's living there. Somebody bought it. They were doing tours and weddings and events, but now when I tried to schedule a tour, they weren't doing it. So somebody might have privatized the house. And also I want to go to Pullman, Washington, where Hermine Decker has archives at PSU of all the plays she's written from when she was in college. And I want to bring them this big package and go, well, I want you to add this to her archive for all of us. This is all because of Hermine Decker. Okay, and Robert Hidden. I do want to send my love and in their memory for Hermine Decker and Bob Hidden and all that they've done. I also want to show some love for Ken Champagne, as well as Gaithel Ferguson, Don Weed, Richard Altenbach, Todd Andes, Mike Haywood, and my mom, Connie. Thank you so much for listening to her story.